Hello everyone, welcome to another video. This is PS Does Book Reviews, where I talk about the books that I've been reading on the past month. So we are now in May. I've been reading a lot of things in April as well that I haven't shown yet, so I wanted to do a little video to show and talk about these kind of books. Mostly I've been reading this, which is Neil Gaiman's Sandman. A book has fallen, don't worry, it's still alive. We had the box set. I ordered it as a gift for my girlfriend. She hasn't read them yet, but I just finished reading all of them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the world of the Sandman and how it all evolves through time and dreamland. So I had already... Hold on, let me pick up the book. We had already reviewed the books up until number 4, I believe, which I have here, so I will show. So this was number 4. It was called Season of Mists. And the most interesting thing about the Sandman series that when you start, there is this very particular scenario that is happening to the Dream Lord, the Sandman himself, that he's caught out in this circle and the whole dreamland is in disarray because of this. And then you spend a few volumes of him trying to recover the dreamland to its proper state. As you go on in the volumes, there are some stories about other worlds, like the fairy world, for example, lost cities, specific gods that come together, and they all share this passion or this relation with dreams and destiny overall. And there's this whole narrative, not just about the dreamland itself, but the relations that the Dream Lord has with other characters. And it kind of loops back. It's not like immediate. You see some glimpses of it on one volume, and then a couple volumes afterwards it mentions those characters again. And it's very interesting. First, because you have this multitude of different characters. It's really, it starts getting overwhelming, especially near the end. At some point you start losing track of which character is which. There are a few that are quite easy to spot, like the pumpkin head. I don't remember his name right now, but that's a very comical character because he's always very straightforward. It's like a New Yorker, say it how you mean it kind of thing, but he always gets caught out by the Dream Lord while he's talking bad about the Dream Lord himself, so it's very funny in that regard. Anyways, volume number 5, A Game of You. I actually don't remember what it's about. Let me check real quick. Okay, so this... Whoa, this is a very interesting one. This is when... This is... Okay, so a few of the characters that show up here, a bit strange. There are two sisters, they're obsessed with spiders, and then there's this Sarah character that is involved somehow with them because Fiddler's Green is involved in it. So it's a bit of a mess. If you don't read the whole story from the beginning, you will not understand why the characters are like that, because they are explaining other stories. But this storyline in particular tells the story of when one of these characters relocated to another place, which has some very interesting neighbors that I'm not gonna mention to avoid some spoilers. But then they have to go on this whole quest to save the dreamland that the character had envisioned herself. And very interesting, it always also starts connecting with some witchcraft kind of stuff, which will play some part later on. I don't want to spoil anything, so I will leave it at that. Very interesting read. I really like that book. I think I give it a 4 out of 5. Let me see what the next one is about. Oh, this one is also very interesting. So this one is number 6, Fables and Reflections. So there are a lot of different stories. It tells a bit of the tale of what happened to the son of the Sandman and one of his wives or of some sort, and the whole fairy land, how the fairy world connects to the rest of the worlds, and it's very interesting storyline. It also gives some views. It has some historical characters that you sort of explain why they acted like they acted, like the emperors of Rome or people who wanted to conquer, or cities that lived forever, how the dreams affect those beings in those places, and how someone can dream things into reality. This is a very important aspect of the whole work around Sandman. It's not just about the characters, it also involves places and locations and concepts and other worlds, like the fairy world and William Shakespeare. He puts up William Shakespeare in the middle of the story by some reason, and then he loops back to him a few more times, because, you know, what would William Shakespeare be if he didn't dream about wanting to be bigger than what he really was? And his whole struggle with his own life and his wife, and having to leave his wife and kids and all that kind of stuff. So very interesting stuff. Anyways, these are a lot of volumes. I don't think I can cover all of them. Volume number 7, I'm not quite sure what this one is about anymore. Oh yeah, this is where they went on the quest to find what happened to their missing brother. So Destruction, one of the 7 brothers. There is Dream, there is Desire, there is Delirium. One of them is called Destruction, and he just disappeared. He had enough of being Destruction. He wanted a quiet life, so he just abandoned his realm. And his family misses him, so mostly Delirium misses him, and she tries to find him again. And she asks Dream for a little help to find his brother. They do manage to find him in the end, but it's not a very happy reunion. So yeah, I will avoid spoilers, but it's also a very interesting chapter. World's End. I believe this one is when the world of the Dream Lord is starting to end. I'm not quite sure. I know it's about the World's End Inn. Okay, so there is this location in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of all the worlds, where when a huge cataclysm is happening, somehow there is this connection pathway where characters manage to meet up and find shelter in this inn, which is the World's End Inn. And this book is all about different tales of different characters that end up on this inn. There is a couple from the actual real world, Earth world. There are some fairy people. There are some people from the Death world. People know characters. There are some fairyland folk. A lot of different characters, and they all tell a tale. That's pretty much what the book is about. It's different tales, and the only point of connection is this World's End Inn. And it's very interesting because there are some characters that show up here that are related to stuff that will happen afterwards, in a few volumes afterwards, and already happened before as well. So there's like this bridge halfway through, but at the same time he made a whole volume just about this specific topic. And storytelling in general, but also connected to the Dreamland, and also plotting a plot. So I was very impressed with the work of Sandman. And with the work of Neil Gaiman in Sandman. And this volume is one of the better ones as well, in terms of storytelling and what you can do. And this one is like the pinnacle of the Sandman, the kindly ones. It's a thicker volume than the other ones. And this one, spoiler alert, is where the Dream Lord will die. It's not completely fatalist, it doesn't completely die. There's like a twist there. But at the same point, it really brings out what happens to the world of the Dreamland, and also at the same point establishes or exposes that some rules have consequences, or that some decisions have consequences, even for immortal beings. So those are things, you know, you need to keep in mind. If you're an immortal being, please be aware that this can happen to you, and you will be forced to relinquish your kingdom, and everyone will have to say goodbye to you and have a funeral. And actually, the funeral of the Sandman is what happens on volume 10. It sort of answers a few questions. It's mostly all the characters gathering again for one last time to pay homage to the Sandman. It answers some of the questions of what would happen to the characters and their relation to Sandman. So it's very well written wrap-up issue for the Sandman. I really enjoyed reading it. So yeah, a lot of good work put into Sandman. I was really impressed of the work. I know I knew it had received a lot of awards, and I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan, so I was a bit skeptical if it would live up to the awards, but it did live up to the awards. It was really good work. I really enjoyed reading all 10 volumes of it. It felt a bit like in the middle that he was starting. He had an initial story and then he didn't really know what to do with it. He was just putting up fillers, but stuff that was still interesting, and playing with the different artists that were involved, like different styles to bring out different stories. And that kind of worked, but then it started looping back and some storylines were progressing to end up on this climax where the Sandman dies in the end. And yeah, I know there are a few more issues of Sandman. I think some are like a prequel kind of thing. I'm not sure. There are also some editions related to Death, one of Sandman's sisters. I also want to check that out. But for now, I've read all of the Sandman. I'm very happy with it. I highly recommend to everyone. Regardless if you like graphic novels or not, if you don't believe the power of comics being able to tell a good storyline, this is a great example of how you can transmit stuff in comic format, and that would not really come across in any other format. I mean, you can, on the comic, you have a very powerful combination of tools that you can use, which you don't really have on the written format, on the strictly written format without any illustrations. So it's a very interesting medium, and I really understand why he got so many awards for this work in particular. So congrats to Neil Gaiman, great work, man. I was already a fan, but you know, I'm becoming ever more of a fan. What other stuff I've been reading this past month? I picked up The Redeemer from Joe Nesbo, continuation of the Harry Hole series. This was number 6. The style is pretty much similar to the other Harry Hole storylines. I was particularly interested because I already know the character. I wanted to know how it evolved. So this was an interesting read. I really liked it. Well written, a few plot twists as expected from Joe Nesbo. But yeah, it was pretty good. I liked the characters, and it flowed very well, so I highly recommend it. I'm not sure if I give it a 4 stars or 5 stars, but I give it a pretty good rating. And I'm curious to read the next one, which I believe is the Snowman or the Leopard, or I'm not sure. Anyways, I think there are 2 more issues in the Harry Hole series, and I do want to read them, so Joe Nesbo is definitely doing something right on his writing. Another book that I've been reading was this one, The Sculptor by Scott McLoud, and it has a praise from Neil Gaiman right here in the bottom saying the best graphic novel I've read in years. So that was a bit hyped. So I was like, okay, let me check it out. Christina, my girlfriend, already had read it and said, it's really good, you should read it. So that's why I picked it up. It's very thick, but you read it really well. I read this in just one day because the graphic style is very simple, to call it that. You can see. It doesn't have much color, it's just blue tones kind of thing. But you read it really fast, but the storyline, it's something really deep. So it's the story of this guy who wants to be a sculptor, but he's failing to be a sculptor, or he's struggling. He makes some promises like never to take handouts and stuff like that. He had a lot of help early on as a young sculptor. He got a good patron. Unfortunately, he didn't agree with some of the practices of this patron, so he called him out. And when he did, the patron didn't really enjoy it very much, so he just decided to cut him off. And on the art business, it's not all about what you do, it's also about how you present it and how you relate to other people. So he's suffering the consequences from that. He can't get his work being exhibited anymore. He starts having, white page syndrome for writers. For sculptors, is the same thing. He can't do any new sculptures. He's uninspired. He doesn't have materials. He doesn't have anything requested out of him. So he's really struggling. And he cuts this deal that I'm not gonna get that much deeper into to avoid spoilers, where he has a certain number of time to use a gift to make amazing sculptures. And he gets down on it and he does the work, but it's still not enough. There are always issues trying to sell your work, even if it's really good, even if it's all the work you ever wanted to do. You still have trouble exhibiting it and explaining it to other people. So for me, being an artist myself, even if it's as a hobby artist, I'm an artist both doing music and doing line drawing. And there's always this issue that you try to do things for yourself as a catharsis, but at the same time you want to expose it, but you can't make a living out of it because people don't know your style. You have to get into the whole social medium of the thing. And is it really worth it to get into that? And then you have the whole part where you do things from your soul and it has this deep meaning to it, and people prefer some kitschy thing that you don't even consider art over experiencing your own creation. So in that aspect, I related a lot to the struggles from the sculptor. And then at some point he meets this girl, this angel, this savior of him, and he immediately falls in love with her. She's a bit reluctant to fall in love with him back. And there's this whole connection of her not understanding what he's trying to do, and her not really being supportive, but wanting to be. There's this whole relationship drama as well going on, where she's a bit bipolar, she wants to push him away. So it's really deep, but it's not as soap opera as I'm probably making it sound on this video. It's really interesting read. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's very interesting both for a relationship, for you to think about relationships, how they work together, the importance behind them. There are a few moments that are comic and they are very typical in relationships, and things like he never kissed a girl before, or never had sex with the girl before, and they have that very explicit there, where he doesn't know how to relate with girls properly, and she just finds that adorable in him. And well, there are a lot of small details like that which really makes this work being worth reading, not just for the struggle of the artist, but for the whole relationship of the characters behind it. So I really found it fascinating. I really loved it. I'm not sure if I give it 4 or 5 stars, probably 5. I really loved the ending as well. It's very well thought out and it really works. And I was touched by the whole storyline. So I really recommend it. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Scott McLoud, good work doing the sculpture. I really enjoyed it. So props for that. And yeah, those were the books that I've been reading on April and May. Now I'm picking up Ubik. It's a classic from Phillip K. Dick. I hadn't read it before. I'm halfway through it. You can see here. Halfway through it. Very interesting. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I'm gonna leave it for the next video. But I'm really digging it so far. So looking forward to speaking about it on another video later on. What about you guys? Have you read any of those books? Any Sandman? Any Joe Nesbo, Harry Hole series fans? Did you know about the Sculptor? Let me know what you guys think on the comments below. Any other recommendations or similar books and all that jazz. Till next time, bye bye everyone. Take care.